shattered my entire world. The reason I thought it was okay for me to do porn was because I thought no one would ever find out about it.
Let's be honest, the adult film industry isn't destroying just the people inside it. It's destroying the men watching it too. And the real reason so many stars are dying, disappearing, and ending up on the streets? Nobody in the industry wants you to figure it out. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how this machine works, and why getting out may already be harder than you think. Most people assume the industry is hardest on women, but let's start somewhere most documentaries never do, with the men performing in it. Making it as a male performer is far harder than it looks. Hours under harsh lighting, extreme physical demands, and a culture where pharmaceutical performance enhancers aren't the exception, they're the expectation. Bill Bailey appeared in over 2,000 productions across his career. He was, by every industry metric, a success story, but the stimulants, the alcohol, the lifestyle, it all caught up with him. At an industry trade event in early 2019, witnesses described seeing Bill drinking heavily throughout the day. That night, in a 4th floor apartment, he went over a balcony railing, 4 stories down. Authorities investigated. No foul play was found. Just another casualty that barely made the news. If you're not new to my channel, then you know it was created for recapping movies, but due to frequent violations and restrictions, I have no other option than to change direction. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new path I've chosen. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. And if you're enjoying the journey so far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. It means more than you know. Most people think the biggest names got out fine. That's exactly what the industry wants you to believe. Mia Khalifa was one of the most searched names on the internet in the mid-2000s. She had fled Lebanon as a child, settled in the US, graduated college, and was working as a waitress and part-time model when she was approached to appear in adult content at 21.
And a car literally stops dead on its tracks and rolls the window down, and they're like, "You are so gorgeous. Would you like to model for me? Like, can I give you my card?"
The fame came almost instantly. The controversy came faster. An early production featuring religious imagery triggered international news coverage, death threats, and a media cycle that, paradoxically, made her the most searched name on the internet. For only a few months, she has spoken publicly about regretting it ever since. If I had never met that person, I never would have done the things people know me for. From the man who fell from a balcony, to the woman who ended up beneath the city itself. What happens to the performers the industry chews up and never mentions again? Sometimes you find them in places you'd never expect. A documentary crew exploring flood tunnels beneath Las Vegas in 2019 stumbled upon something extraordinary, a sprawling underground community of people living beneath the city's famous streets. Among them was Jenny Lee, a former performer who had appeared in over 100 productions between 2003 and 2009. She had been a recognizable name.
I actually got very famous.
Even years after retiring, she still appeared on trending lists on major platforms.
I should still be top 100 on some list somewhere.
Really? She had married at 22, divorced by 26, tried to rebuild a modeling career after leaving the industry. It didn't take. By 2019, she was living underground. In a brief interview captured by that film crew, she seemed at peace, almost defiantly so. "I have everything I need here." Researchers estimate between 1,000 and 1,500 people live in those tunnels. Flash floods, sewage, extreme heat, crime. Whether Jenny is still there today, nobody knows. For most performers, that's not an option. There's no podcast circuit, no brand deals. Just a job interview where the employer eventually finds out. So why is all of this getting worse? Not better? Here's what's changed. The rise of major tube sites didn't free performers. It made the industry more brutal, more competitive, and more anonymous. Where a performer might once have had a structured deal with a production house, they're now competing against millions of other uploads for a fraction of the revenue. Think of it like dating apps. They didn't make it easier to find a relationship. They made it harder by flooding the market with options and eliminating scarcity. The same thing happened here. Meanwhile, the substances performers use to cope have become exponentially more dangerous. Synthetic compounds, far more potent than what circulated even 5 years ago, have flooded the supply. Combined with the mental health crisis the rest of the world is experiencing, performers are facing more risk with fewer resources than ever before. Studies show performers develop PTSD symptoms at roughly 70% of the rate seen in combat veterans, either from trauma that preceded their time in the industry or from events that occurred during it. And here's the part that affects you, even if you've never appeared in a single video. 87% of college-aged men in one study reported consuming adult content regularly, 50% weekly, 20% daily. This is not a fringe statistic. Over 2 decades of research into addiction now show that compulsive consumption of adult content produces the same neurological changes seen in drug addiction: degradation of the frontal lobe, reduced willpower, increased impulsivity, emotional dysregulation. The companies operating the largest platforms are not unaware of this. They employ the same psychologists, the same algorithmic architects, and the same behavioral design principles as the most addictive social media apps on earth. The difference is the product. MindGeek, the parent company behind most of the major tube sites, recently rebranded as ALO, not long after a Netflix documentary exposed their internal practices. A rebrand doesn't change the architecture. At the bottom of the pyramid, the performers, recruited from broken backgrounds, offered fast money, cycled out when the audience moves on. At the top, a multi-billion-dollar system that profits it exploits and the audience it addicts. AI-generated content may eventually reduce the number of human performers, but it will almost certainly deepen addiction for the audience, removing the last remaining friction between a viewer and an increasingly extreme feed. The only thing that's ever worked is what nobody in this industry wants to say: disconnection. Breaking the cycle individually, refusing to participate in a system that runs on exploitation at both ends. As long as the demand exists, in the shape it currently exists, compulsive, anonymous, algorithmic, the supply will keep finding new people to consume. The tunnels under Las Vegas, the hospital room in California, the woman who can't get a second interview, that's where the pipeline ends. The question is whether enough people understand how it starts.